for watching today's video. My name is Jose Torres, and today's speech I will try to persuade you that violent video games are detrimental to children. Now, the reason this topic was interesting to me and I picked it was because I was speaking to a friend of mine not too long ago. His son's birthday was coming up. He's a child of about 8 or 9 years old, and I was wanting to get him something for his birthday. And my friend told me, whatever you get him, do not get him any more video games. We had taken them out because we were starting to have a lot of problems with him. His attitude was changing in school and towards them. His grades were slipping, and he wasn't getting enough sleep, or he wasn't getting a restful sleep at night, which was a cause also of not paying attention in school. So I started doing a little bit of research, and the following is what I found. There are many different types of video games out there. We have competitive games, we have puzzle games, and we have violent games. An example of a competitive video game would be any sports game such as Madden, football. We have Major League Baseball, there's FIFA, soccer. There's also some very good racing games out there. Some puzzle games, the only one I can really think of is the Da Vinci Code, which I played. There's really no action or violence. You just go around solving the puzzle, trying to get the Holy Grail. And then there are violent video games. Many kids nowadays are playing these violent video games that the ESRB has rated M for mature, which means only 17 and above years of age, people years of age, can play those games or purchase them. Let's take a look at a scene from Call of Duty Black Ops. It's a first-person shooter. It's me playing. I get killed off pretty quickly, but this is, if you haven't seen it, this is what kids are playing. Sticky up. So this clip brings me to my first point. Laura St. John wrote an article for the Huffington Post. And the article is titled 8 Ways Violent Video Games Are Bad for Your Kids. And my first point is that violent video games provide a first-hand role in the killing process. Laura St. John in her article wrote, to kids, virtual experiences feel very real, not only because the graphics today are so amazing, but because they are taking on a first-person role in the killing process. The following video clip I will present to you, I recorded while playing the video game God of War Ascension. Let's take a look. That's pretty gory. Now imagine a child sitting in front of his or her TV playing a game with so much blood and gore for hours, because children do tend to play for an extended period of time. Now this brings me to my second point. Violent video games desensitize children to violence. Dr. Rick Noward wrote an article for PsychCentral.com. And his opening paragraph is this: new research has found exposure to violent video games can desensitize individuals to real-life violence. Professor Nicholas Carnegie, a psychology professor at a University of Iowa, he did a research, and in his research he stated, several features of violence in video games suggest that they may have even more pronounced effects on users than violent TV programs. Now this brings me to an example. CNN.com, they ran a story in August 2013. An 8-year-old boy, after playing Grand Theft Auto, just minutes after playing the game, picked up a gun and shot his 87-year-old caregiver. Now, in this case, the child was not charged with any crime. Although motive remains unknown, the only link authorities could find was that he was playing the game Grand Theft Auto 4, which is a game, actually, that encourages people to kill in the game and awards points to the player for killing people. Approximately, I'd say 2 weeks ago, some friends of mine came up to San Antonio to visit me, and we went out, and they were telling me about their son. Now, their son is about 5 years old. He's 5 years old, and he has a Transformers video game. And in the video game, one of the objects you have to do is you are Optimus Prime. You become the truck. You transform into the vehicle, and you have to follow a Decepticon, which is also a vehicle, and you have to ram the Decepticon from the back, so he can transform into a robot and you can fight him. Well, they were telling me that they were out for a drive one night, and in front of them was a car with a Decepticon sticker in the rear windshield. When their son saw this, he jumped up and says, "Daddy, you have to hit the car. You have to hit the car so Megatron can come out." Now, with this example, it brings me to my third and final point, which is violent video games blur the lines between fantasy and reality. September 17th, 2013, last year, FoxNews.com ran a report on the Navy Yard shooting in Washington, D.C. Now, the suspect was not a child, but in the report, Fox News stated the following: several other mass killers, including Columbine shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, and Norwegian mass murderer Anders Breivik, have been linked to violent video games, and some experts worry that as the games get more violent and more realistic, so does their power to blur the line between fantasy and reality. In conclusion, I have presented to you news reports, personal experiences, and research data that have concluded that violent video games, to an extent, have an impact on children and people in general. Some people want to blame the producers, the companies who make the games, others the sellers who carry the games, who sell the games to children despite the ESRB ratings. But it also lies with us. If you've never taken a look behind the boxes of the video games, I have some here. Call of Duty, Need for Speed, and God of War. Just to show you an example. Need for Speed. I really haven't played this much, so I couldn't tell you a lot about the game. It's a racing game, and you have to get away from the police and race cars and crash into them and whatnot. But in the back, see right here, it says T for teen and adolescence. Now, what does the game contain? Language, mild suggestive themes, violence, and it's all listed right there for you to read. This is Need for Speed. Let's take a look at God of War. This, in contrast to Need for Speed, is rated M for mature. See, 17 plus. And it has blood and gore, intense violence, nudity, and sexual content. Now, I personally believe that these games can be played and enjoyed, provided that the player is of sound mind and they know that it is only a game. They can differentiate between fantasy and reality. But if the game starts to influence them in a negative way, then I believe that it is time for a change. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been informative to you and that I have at least persuaded you to look into these games a little closer. And have a nice day.